thank you for joining us. My name is Stephen Burritt. I'm the Regional Executive Director for MADD South Carolina and North Carolina. And with me,
Hi, I'm Chandler Boatwright. I'm the Program Manager at MADD South Carolina. Stephen and I are here today to give you a brief overview of our 2022 MADD South Carolina Court Monitoring Report that was released earlier in October of this year. To see a copy of that report, you can go to madd.org/SC.
all right, and court monitoring is one of the major things that we do. It's a huge percentage of what our staff work on. And it's something that we've been doing now for years, and we really wanted to because we knew there were so many problems with what happens when the DUI cases hit the judicial process. It was our way of getting into that. And so I'm glad we've been doing this work now for several years. We started the tradition with these reports of dedicating them to people who are both special and we feel like their story really relates to what we're talking about. And so this year, I just wanted to let folks know that the report is dedicated to the memory of Ashley Avent. Ashley was a mother of three precious young girls and her husband, Ken. Life ahead of them, wonderful family in their community in the PD part of the state. And unfortunately, her life was taken in a crash. That, of course, in and of itself was tragic, but then come to find out this offender had multiple DUI and BUI convictions. Arrests, not convictions. And so we really feel like their story and just how tragic that is that happened really fits this report, which we called Deadly Results, perfectly because things did not go right. Ultimately, it led to this tragedy.
And why do we do court monitoring? We started this program because we wanted to bring awareness to the state of South Carolina about how bad our DUI problem is. We had a lot of complaints from a lot of different sides, so we wanted to be able to bring all this data together to share with everyone. In Ashley's memory, along with so many others, we are pushing for a time, sooner rather than later, where every DUI is taken as serious and as dangerous offense that it is. South Carolina failed Ashley and her family, so we can and we must do better.
Absolutely. So what is court monitoring really briefly? Again, it's different from when we go to court with victims and say felony cases. This has to do with first offense misdemeanor DUI cases. We are currently monitoring in 7 of the largest counties in the state: Berkeley, Charleston, Horry, Greenville, Spartanburg, Lexington, and Richland. And the goal, again, why we do this is to put some numbers behind this problem that we know exists and then use that as a springboard way to talk about why we have the problems that we do and what sort of improvements we think we need to make.
And how do we get our data? So we have 2 court monitoring specialists, one in the upstate and one in the low country, and they can get this data a few different ways. One, by either being in court in person and seeing how everything goes down. Or also we can get the information through the public index. Some courts use the public index and some courts have their own system that we also have access to. This is our 4th report that MADD South Carolina is putting out. Like I said earlier, it was released in October. And this report covers data that we collected from January 1st, 2019 to July of this year.
So again, we're just going to hit the highlights of some of what you'll see if you choose to look this through the report. Again, it's located at madd.org/SC under the report section. But really, we track all sorts of things about these thousands of cases that we've been monitoring, but we really boil it down to just a few, 3 really categories. So was somebody found guilty? That could be guilty of DUI, whether they pled guilty, were found guilty, or they were found guilty of something called driving with an unlawful alcohol concentration, or DUAC. It's a different charge, but essentially it's the same as DUI. We consider that a guilty. Was the case pled down to something lower, typically reckless driving, but it could be something else? Or the other category is what we call dropped to dismissed or not guilty. But basically, that's somehow the case goes away without them being found guilty of anything, best we know, because we track a lot of these cases online and sometimes it just disappears. So that could be because the prosecutor drops it, because the judge dismisses it, or because they were found not guilty and then it quickly disappears from the system, which we really don't think happens all that often. So really, we're boiling everything down to just those few categories. So now we can talk about, for those 7 counties, what are the main things that we found?
Okay, so first off, we have Berkeley County. And as you see in the chart right here, Berkeley County had a 35% conviction rate for our 2022 report. This is actually a 7% decrease from 42% in our 2020 report. And then here on this chart, you see Charleston County. And in Charleston County, we had a 47% conviction rate. And then in this chart, Greenville County, we had a conviction rate of 71%. Greenville had a conviction rate of 47% in the last report. So this is a big jump from our 2020 report.
All right, so now we'll move over to the other counties. So we had Horry County. The 30% conviction rate is what they had. It's about the same as it was the prior report when we did that as well. For Lexington, almost 600 cases, the conviction rate was 42%, down a little bit from the prior report. Lexington is one of the counties where we've been there the least amount of time, so sometimes you do see bigger changes from 1 to 2. So this was really just a minor change. And we did see that the percentage of cases that were dropped, dismissed, or found not guilty was higher than the previous report. In Richland County, their results definitely kind of stood out. So they only had a conviction rate of 17%. So in our last report, they were at 30%, which was close to the lowest. And in this one, they were pretty clearly the lowest, just having 17%. Again, this is the county that I will say was the kind of most affected by COVID, in that they stayed closed long after a lot of the other counties were back to operating normally. DUI cases in Richland County still were not going to court. So they were definitely COVID impacted, and a little unclear about how that directly connects to that low conviction rate. And then we have Spartanburg County with a 65% conviction rate, about the same as the prior report when they were clearly the top one. So in both reports, Spartanburg has either been the highest conviction rate county or pretty close to that, which is something they should be proud of.
And then also just some interesting data tidbits of the cases that we monitored. Our data shows that 74% of impaired driving cases involved male defendants. And our data also showed us that 59% of all defendants were between the ages of 21 and 39. So with this information, it indicates that the male population between the ages of 21 and 39, they are a large contributor to our state's impaired driving problem.
All right. So this was actually we did say this at the beginning. This was actually part 1 of 2 videos. We wanted this one to stay kind of short and just be about just the numbers themselves. In the video that we'll be releasing soon, you can see part 2, which is where we actually go a lot more into why we think the conviction rates are so low and what South Carolina can do differently. So we hope you stay with us to our next report.